This is my presentation on vitamin B12 for Nutrition 200 by Sydney Bishop. Vitamin B12 is a water-soluble vitamin that is found naturally in some foods and added to others, and is also available as a dietary supplement. Vitamin B12 is one of the 8 B vitamins. We cannot produce this vitamin on our own, and we must get it from foods or supplements. Vitamin B12 contains cobalt-1,4, aiding in metabolic activity. It is a required vitamin and is necessary for red blood cell formation, neurological function, and DNA synthesis. It is a coenzyme, which means that it is a small helper molecule for proper enzyme activity, and it is also stored in the liver. Vitamin B12, when found naturally in food, is bonded to the proteins. When eating foods naturally containing B12, the food goes through a separation phase when the activity of hydrochloric acid and gastric acid protease meet the food containing the vitamin. In foods that have B12 added to them, it is already in a free form and doesn't need to undergo the separation phase. After this process, it then combines with glycoproteins that are secreted from the stomach's parietal cells and is then absorbed into the body via the distal ileum by receptor-mediated endocytosis. Our bodies absorb about 56% of a 1 microgram oral dose, and absorption decreases as we exceed 2.4 micrograms daily. Vitamin B12 functions as a cofactor for methionine synthase and L-methyl-malonyl-CoA mutase. Methionine synthesis catalyzes the conversion of homocysteine to malethionine 5,6. Malethionine is required for the formation of S-adenosylmalethionine, a universal methyl donor for almost 100 different substrates, including DNA, RNA, hormones, proteins, and lipids. L-methyl-malonyl-CoA mutase converts L-methyl-malonyl-CoA to succinyl-CoA and the degrading of propionate 3,5,6, which is an essential biochemical reaction in fat and protein metabolism. Succinyl-CoA is also required for hemoglobin synthesis. Some examples of foods that are very high in vitamin B12. First, animal liver and kidneys, especially from lamb, are very high in vitamin B12. For example, a 3.5-ounce serving of lamb liver provides us with a 1,500% of our RDI, which is recommended daily intake. The same size beef or veal liver gives us about 990% of our RDI. Second are clams. If we were to eat 20 small clams, we would get approximately 3,300% of our daily RDI. Third, milk and milk products can provide us with 20 to 25% of our RDI in 1 ounce of Swiss cheese or 1 cup of whole milk. Fortified cereals can provide us with about 137% of our RDI for 3/4 of a cup of cereals such as Malto Meal, Cheerios, and Fiber Bran Flakes. Vegans and vegetarians have a very high risk of being vitamin B12 deficient due to plant foods not having any vitamin B12 in them. Vegetarians are at less risk than vegans because they still eat eggs and dietary products, but on average still consume less than half of the RDI of 2.4 micrograms. Approximately 30% of elderly people over the age of 50 have been found to suffer from atrophic gastritis, which is a thinning of the stomach lining. This is a result of the stomach not being able to absorb vitamins. Nursing mothers who are B12 deficient can cause their babies to have severe developmental abnormalities and/or irreversible neurological damage. Others that are at risk are people who have celiac disease or people who have pernicious anemia. Recommendations for people who fall into any or all of these categories should take a multivitamin, eat fortified cereals, or both. A deficiency of vitamin B12 may affect balance, memory, and even your mood. According to an article published by the Harvard Health Letter, These days, most health warnings about vitamins focus on the dangers of overdose for vitamin B12 overdose. For vitamin B12, though, it is more likely that people are getting too little. In fact, B12 deficiency is the most common nutritional deficiency in the developing world and possibly in the United States as well. Although an overdose of vitamin B12 is very rare, it can still happen. Some problems related to excessive B12 intake are diarrhea, bloating, and other gastrointestinal problems, and can further complicate high blood pressure and poor cardiovascular health. Vitamin B12 plays an essential role in the function of our metabolism. Methylcobalamin and 5-deoxyadenosine are forms of vitamin B12 that are active in human metabolism. The main functions of B vitamins, and especially B12, is to help our body metabolize carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, as well as to use the stored energy in food. According to my media source video by Demystifying Medicine that we will view next, they state that there are studies that show that our liver stores enough B12 in order to last our bodies for over a year. Another interesting fact is that pregnant and nursing women only need 0.2 more micrograms per day in order to supply their children and themselves with the right daily amounts. The most interesting thing I have learned about B12 is that if we are to microwave food or dairy products containing B12, it will deactivate the vitamin and be of no benefit to us. The cause of this is due to the type of radiation used in a microwave causing a destruction of B12 vitamin. It is recommended to heat food in the oven or on the stovetop. Cyanocobalamin is a crystalline form of vitamin B12 that is found in many multivitamins as well as intramuscular B12 injections. Here is a very educational video I found on YouTube that summarizes B12 very well. I'm only going to show a small part of the video, but please feel free to watch the whole thing to learn more interesting facts and more information on vitamin B12 after this presentation.
Demystifying Medicine presents the dangers of a vitamin B12 deficiency. Vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin, is an important vitamin that is required for all individuals, and getting the right amount of B12 is a major driving factor in acquiring and maintaining optimal health. Vitamin B12 helps to make DNA and red blood cells. It is also required for proper neurological function and maintenance of healthy nerve cells. Getting enough vitamin B12 may be a concern if you are eating a plant-based diet, but do not worry, we'll be showing you how easy it is to get it. In this video, we'll be exploring what vitamin B12 does in the body, how we can acquire it through different sources, and what happens if you don't get enough B12 in your diet. So let's take a look how it works in the body. Once digested, vitamin B12 is absorbed by the small intestine through intestinal cells. It is then transported through the blood to the tissues of the body. Vitamin B12 is stored in the liver, and because a healthy human requires such a small amount per day, the liver stores a sufficient amount to cover the body's daily need for several years. Vitamin B12 is very important to the human body because it is a coenzyme. In order to understand what a coenzyme is, we must first understand enzymes. Enzymes are proteins that accelerate the rate at which chemical reactions occur in the body. Some require coenzymes to properly function. Therefore, a coenzyme is a small organic or inorganic helper molecule that an enzyme requires for proper activity. Vitamin B12 acts as a coenzyme to two enzymes in human cells, methionine synthase and methylmalonyl coenzyme A synthase. The first, methionine synthase, is an enzyme that helps to create the molecule methionine. Methionine is an amino acid important in producing and protecting DNA and affecting proper gene expression. It also aids in the production and preservation of myelin sheath around neurons. The myelin sheath is a fatty white substance found surrounding neurons or nerve cells, acting as insulation for nerve signal, and it is very essential for proper nerve signal transmission. The second enzyme, methylmalonyl coenzyme A synthase, creates a molecule known as succinyl-CoA. This molecule plays an important role in the production of energy for the body from fats and proteins. It also aids in the production of hemoglobin, which is a protein that transports oxygen in the blood. This means that vitamin B12 also aids in the formation of red blood cells. Now that we
To summarize the parts that we didn't watch because the video was too long, they went on to tell us about certain foods that contain B12 as well as the types of heat that deactivate the vitamin, being the microwave, as I mentioned before. They also talk about certain fortified foods that contain B12, such as bran flakes, matzo meal, and Cheerios. They talk about other ways people can go about getting enough B12 if they are deficient, via intramuscular shots or taking doctor-prescribed vitamins. The difference between doctor-prescribed vitamins and off-the-shelf vitamins are that doctor-prescribed vitamins contain more of the actual vitamin than the ones that you would just pick up off the shelf. This peer-reviewed article titled Vitamin B12 Among Vegetarians, Status, Assessment, and Supplementation is from the U.S. National Library of Medicine and was published November 29, 2016. This article focuses on the dangers vegetarians and vegans have being B12 deficient. Their studies have shown that the popularity in a vegan and vegetarian diet has increased in recent years, now leaving more than 10% of the population choosing to be on a vegan or vegetarian diet to exclude all or most animal food products. They also stated that their findings during this study were that most people choose this diet and lifestyle as a result of ethical and ecological aspects. They stated, quote, however, when the reasons are ethical, this may result in a reduced interest in the knowledge of the nutritional aspects of the choice, end quote. The scientific literature shows that the reduction or exclusion of animal foods may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease and type 2 diabetes through modifiable factors such as body mass, serum glucose, blood pressure, and serum lipid profile. These disorders contribute to a high mortality rate of Western countries. Here are the different types of vegetarianism defined by the National Library of Medicine. There are differing styles that are categorized according to the level of animal food exclusion. Vegetarianism can be classified into different plant-based subgroups. 1. Lacto-ovo-vegetarian, which excludes animal flesh, but includes eggs and dairy. 2. Ovo-vegetarian, similar to lacto-ovo-vegetarian, but excluding dairy products. 3. Lacto-vegetarian, also similar to lacto-ovo-vegetarian, but excluding eggs. And 4th, vegan, which excludes all animal foods, dairy products, and eggs. Unbalanced vegetarian diets are lacking in many vitamins and may lead to further health problems and complications, but B12 has been found to be the most needed and deficient in all vegetarian and vegan diets. The U.S. National Library of Medicine states that a common mistake is to think that the presence of dairy products and eggs in the diet, as in a lacto-ovo-vegetarian diet, can still ensure a proper intake of B12, despite excluding animal flesh. In reality, consumption of such food, despite containing significant amounts of B12, would be sufficient neither on a daily basis nor in order to meet vitamin requirements. In summary of this article, I have come to the conclusion that if you choose to take on a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle and diet change, you must. In summary of this article, I have come to the conclusion that if you choose to take on a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle and diet change, you need to be informed of all of the deficiencies you will encounter, especially that of B12, if you do not take proper supplements. Also, choosing the right vegetarian diet to be on is also a key factor in your B12 intake. Even though eggs and milk will not give you enough to meet your RDI, you can take less supplements and consume more milk and egg products as a different form of supplement. To summarize and conclude this presentation, we now know that vitamin B12 is a water-soluble vitamin, which means that it is dissolved when in contact with water. It is essential for red blood cell formation, DNA synthesis, and neurological functions. We know that elderly people over 50, vegetarians, vegans, pregnant or nursing women, and people with other gastrointestinal issues are more prone to have a B12 deficiency. B12 is not produced in our bodies, and we must get it from sources such as meats and supplements. The most interesting thing I learned is that as we microwave things containing B12, it will deactivate the vitamin, and it will be of no use to our bodies. B12 is an essential vitamin in the function of our metabolism, and good source of B12, good sources of B12 are meats, shellfish, dairy, eggs, and fortified foods. We must ensure that we are choosing to cut out, as we are choosing to cut out certain things in our diets, especially foods containing B12, we must supplement them in other ways in order to meet our daily RDI. It is important to eat a balanced diet for many reasons, but very important in order to meet our RDI of 2.4 micrograms of B12 every day. And here is my final slide showing my sources that I used. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.